Hi, it's Lorna, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a super cool, funky, vibrant jellyfish using oil pastels. So oil pastels are one of my favorite mediums. They're nice and creamy. I'm also going to be using these on black paper, which is one of my favorites to use with oil pastels, and this is just by Canson. You can use any like black cardstock, black construction paper. You can use a different color too. Maybe you want a navy blue or lime green or something. You know, you do whatever you want. You could also use white paper. If you're using white paper, you don't really need to do this step, which is I'm going to take my white pastel and do my line art, as well as go over any highlighted areas. Because I'm using black paper, you really want your colors to pop and be vibrant and look their best. Even though oil pastels are nice and creamy and they layer on top of the black paper very nicely, I find that if I add a white base to the parts where I want it to be the brightest and the lightest, that I could get some really nice bright colors. If I skip this step and don't use the white pastel, the colors are a little bit less vibrant, and that's fine too. So if you don't want it to be super psychedelic, almost glowingly bright, then you don't have to use the white. So I'm just going around some of the edges and the top of my jellyfish where I want the light to hit the jellyfish. So here I'm just drawing out a basic bell shape. Mine has some indents in the top of it. I just like it to be a little bit more fluid, but jellyfish typically have a rounded dome. Sometimes if the waves or the water is pushing it, it'll be slightly indented like I have here. I am drawing some tentacles. I like to do one big tentacle and lots of little ones. So I'm doing my big tentacle here. I do a straighter curvy line, and then I do a really lumpy curvy line to meet it, and that just looks like the center of the jellyfish tentacles. Some jellyfish have this where they have a big thick tentacle, and some don't. So if you want to just do thin ones or even little short lines, there's lots of different types of jellyfish that look different. So if you're using a reference photo, you can do that, or you can make up your own jellyfish like I am. So I want this one to be vibrant, so I'm filling it in with my white. I'm also making a bit of a highlight in the center there underneath my dome, and that's going to just lend to having my color put on top of it. So now I'm just doing some tentacles. They're just free wave shapes. I like them to overlap and go in different directions. Maybe some swirlies and loop-de-loops. A good idea if you've never drawn tentacles or anything like that before is to practice wave shapes on another piece of paper. So the next step is going to be adding color. So the colors I'm going to be using are orange, yellow, pink, green, and blue. And you can use whatever colors you want. You can make it look natural. You could just do white and leave it at that, because jellyfish typically are translucent. And a lot of times the color that they have is actually from the things that they eat. So if they're a little bit more orange, they probably feed on a lot of shrimp and things like that. So I mean, there's jellyfish that are huge, like lion's mane jellyfish that are larger than a boat. So you can choose whatever colors you want and whatever size you want for your jellyfish. And I'm just going over the white areas with some of the lighter colors like I did with my yellow. And then I'm using my this dark purple color as my darkest for where my shadows are going to be. And I'm going really thick on the right side and just layering it on nice and thin on the left side. So you'll see I'm building it up on the right because I want it to be really pigmented there, and then just doing a little bit on the left side. And that's because I want to mix these colors together, and I also want some shadow. So I would recommend choosing your darkest color for your darkest sections. So if you're doing rainbow colors kind of like how I am, I would choose your darkest color. So if you're using a dark blue, I would do your dark blue there. If you're using a dark green, do that. I'm using the darkest color is the pink, so that's what I'm using. And you'll see I'm going over it with a little bit of this orange because I want to mix them. And I'm doing mostly warm colors for the top of my jellyfish, and I'm going to add some of my cooler colors down at the bottom. I have these little sections here. These are optional. They're just little lines that make it look like it's curving. Some jellyfish have patterns on them, like rings or polka dots and things like that. So this is totally optional. And I'm highlighting each one of those little sections that I created with the yellow. If you find that some of your areas are too dark, or you want to lighten them, you can also build up your white on top of the color and mix it in and then put more color on top. So that's always an option. So now I'm going to move on to coloring my tentacles. And for that, I'm not really planning out what colors I'm going to be doing. I know that I want this center one to be really bright and vibrant, and so that's going to be my lighter colors. But for the rest of them, I just want a good mix. So I'm going to probably do 2 or 3 of each color for the tentacles, and then I'm going to shape them with some other colors, like adding a little highlights of green or highlights of blue, just to give them a little bit, like if the water is reflecting on them. But that's pretty much it. I'm building up on this tentacle from light to dark. So I went from yellow, orange to the pink color. And that's gonna make it look like it's a little bit more dimensional. And so I'm just gonna add all my colors in, and I'm gonna draw some tentacles using just the colors so that they're a little bit darker. So the next step is blending. There's a few different ways that you can blend, and if you want to learn more ways than what I'm showing in this video, there's some other videos on how to blend with oil pastels on our page, so check those out. So I'm just going to be using this white oil pastel to blend out some of my highlighted areas. I like this because it just makes it a little bit brighter in those areas and a little bit more opaque. So I'm just going over the edges of this big long tentacle with my white. I also drew on some bubbles, and you can draw as many bubbles as you want. You can fill them in. You can make them look more realistic by adding some color. It's up to you what you put. You can put little fishies or something back here too. I just like it because it adds a little bit more interest to the background. So now I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to smudge together all of those seams. I want to make it so that there's not too many breaks in the color. I don't want too much of the black showing behind my jellyfish. And I'm just going to take my finger and I'm putting gentle pressure and pulling around my tentacles. You can do this in smaller sections and really blend those out, but I like the way that the pastel pulls and it looks like one fluid movement. So I'm just going to do this for all of my tentacles, and that's pretty much it to this tutorial. If you don't want to get your fingers dirty, you're welcome to use different methods like a Q-tip or a piece of paper, and that will work just fine. Or you could do this with gloves on, but you won't have as much friction, and the friction is what's blending. So I recommend your finger, and it cleans off. So, all right, so thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. If you want to see more videos or be notified when they come out, hit the notification bell and you'll be notified when we have new videos. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day. Bye!